Greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Hello, welcome to Couple of Flicks. I'm Tristan.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Zach.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
And happy holidays and all that. So, so before we get started, have either of you seen anything new?
I finally saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Okay.
Is it out yet? Like on DVD
Yeah,
or?
it's on Blu-ray and stuff.
Mm.
It's I don't know, it wasn't his best movie, but it was pretty good still.
Yeah.
The ending scene itself was so good.
I still haven't seen it, but I've heard that ending scene was good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it this week since it's out now.
Yeah, it's the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
He's good with his endings, I feel like. So.
Yeah, like I loved Django Unchained's ending.
Yeah.
That one went wild, real fast.
Yeah.
0 to 60 in like a half a second.
Yeah. Pulp Fiction is legendary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Did you see anything?
Yeah, you guys read my review of it, but I did. It was Only Lovers Left Alive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Jim Jarmusch
Yeah.
vampire film that I guess I just heard someone mention it, and I was like, oh, he made a vampire film? I'll check it out. I like vampires.
Mm.
And I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Like I definitely can understand why a normal audience wouldn't like it, because it goes Jim Jarmusch, like nothing happens in the movie at all, really.
Yeah.
Like there's no plot. It's more of like just, a character study or whatever.
Yeah. It's pure atmosphere.
Yeah. I liked it a lot for it's like just a regular, like the most realistic probably depiction of a vampire they've had in modern media.
Mm.
And it's like a day in the life of what it would like to be a vampire and shit.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Like,
yeah.
And it depicts a actual relationship that isn't like, fucking Twilights and all those.
Yeah.
Like Twilights aren't vampires, by the way.
I agree.
But it's like the relation. There's like one fight in it, and it ends in the same scene with them making up in the same scene. There's no like second act kerfuffle with them, and then they get back together in the same scene. They have that one fight.
Yeah.
And so it's a functional relationship if you want to see a functional like legit soulmates things, because they're vampires, live eternally. They eventually would find probably a soulmate, and then just what vampires go through to live is basically what the movie is. There's no plot, some sarcastic humor.
I loved it too.
Yeah, and they play on the tropes of vampires too. The main character, fucking Loki or whatever, he's the brooding vampire you see in modern media, but an interesting version of it. I like he's all about like just engineering technology.
Yeah.
Like he wants to stay as low tech as possible. Like one of the first scenes I thought was awesome was his whole setup. Like for his house is like, well, just he FaceTimes is it Tilda Swinton?
Yeah.
Yeah, he FaceTimes her using like just this jerry-rigged setup of like a CRTV from the 50s, like a early 2000s laptop, and she's just using an iPhone. Yeah. So I appreciated that about him, and like she's like the typical kind of like posh vampire, like elegant.
Yeah.
And so that's her stereotype, but plays it well. She's, they have powers, super speed and strength, and like I liked her power of she can tell what year anything was built in.
Yeah.
Because just by touching it and feeling it, she likes it. Oh, this guitar made in 1905. And like,
It's so beautifully done.
yeah. And I don't know if he really had any powers other than the speed and strength, but there's another like new coming vampire who could send messages through dreams. Apparently, it was hinted at. Like, oh, it worked. Cool. Like she was like the young vampire of the stereotypes, like the young, reckless, not fully in control. So it showed like, you know, good depictions of modern vampire stereotypes, and just it was sweet.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like that movie was super cool, and it was very lifelike. I think you mentioned like it being realistic, you know, and pretty much like it's the kind of movie where, like you said, it's kind of bare plot, like bare storytelling, you know. The few conflicts that do kind of exist in the movie are resolved pretty quickly.
It's just almost ignored.
Yeah.
Like again, mentioning stereotype, they have the human goof getting like, oh yeah, Anton Yelchin, R.I.P.
Oh yeah.
He was just like a goofy kind of, he fits the mold of the human in a vampire story kind of thing. And, you know, has this same general fate you would expect. You know, he gets killed by spoilers. But yeah. And then that, which is what, you know, starts the third act or whatever, is just ultimately unresolved.
Yeah.
Because it's realistically unresolved because they're loaded and they just book it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, vampires accrue wealth easily because they're, you know, old and just hold on to money. They don't need money. So
yeah,
it shines the light on plot holes of other vampire movies where they can just kind of book it if they want to. They have no ties to anything.
Yeah, which it makes sense because they kind of exist outside of all that kind of thing anyway, you know. But
yeah, and I did like the older vampire too.
Yeah.
It was Shakespeare.
That was awesome.
Which is, I love that little plot because I've read recently like theories of, oh, Shakespeare isn't like all his works weren't necessarily his, or Shakespeare wasn't even necessarily a singular person. It was like a writing team.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of different theories. And it was funny that guy was like, yeah, if only I met Adam, which was the name, Adam and Eve, the main character, I would have had a better Hamlet. Like I would have modeled it after him. And it was just funny. He had like a photo of Shakespeare with like a dagger through his forehead. Like he hated Shakespeare, so it was implied that, you know, he took works of Shakespeare or something. I don't exactly know. They just implied that, yeah, he was Shakespeare.
Yeah, which I'm glad that was sort of, I like that because what like the whole now that there's all these theories and speculations about Shakespeare and stuff, I feel like it's time to kind of tackle that with humor as well. Like, so
yeah.
But now I'm really interested to hear like what your thoughts on that movie Under the Skin would be. Because I kind of feel like there are some slight vampiric elements to that, you know, but that's just kind of my opinion, you know. I don't want to talk about that one, but yeah, I do think you should see it.
Yeah, I've been wanting to. So.
Yeah. What did I watch? I watched some. I rewatched something actually. I rewatched the Nicolas Cage movie Lord of War the other day.
One where he sells weapons.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
It's like an arms dealer. Yeah.
When I remember liking it, I don't remember it at all. But.
Yeah, it's actually a lot better than I remembered it being. It's actually it's pretty interesting actually, and I think when I saw it, some aspects of it sort of went over my head, you know, but rewatching it, like I understand sort of the bigger picture of it now. So that was a really well done movie. So, you know, it's worth rewatching, I would say. You know, it's not a perfect movie, but I'm glad I rewatched it. So.
It's a good Cage film.
Yeah.
One of the good ones.
Yeah, one of his more like mature performances, I'd say. You know. Anyway, so since it's near the holidays, pretty much all the movies we're talking about are all holiday themed. And the first one we're going to talk about is a short film, which is directed by Jason Eisner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Treevenge, which was made in 2008.
What did Jason Eisner do? I know the name.
He did Hobo with a Shotgun.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing that he directed that movie, going into this, probably helped it make more sense to me, like the humor and everything.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Definitely
hilarious.
worth a watch if anyone. I mean, unless you're like super prone to gore,
Yeah.
it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. Like if you're not into like extreme violence and gore, it's definitely one you should avoid.
Yeah.
But
But it's funny gore too.
it is.
So
It's hard to take seriously. I mean, but yeah, and you chose, this was the one that you suggested, right? Or one of the ones you
Yeah.
suggested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I keep hearing about it, but this is the first time I've actually watched it. So,
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't like surprised. I thought it was gonna be pretty funny or good since it was only 16 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is probably something somebody just had fun with. And it was. It looked like so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I dug it. I hadn't seen it before either. I'm familiar with the director's work. I've seen Hobo with a Shotgun. I saw the things that he did for the ABCs of Death and VHS 2, I think it was. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, and I like both of those. So I pretty much knew, like, going into this, like, what it was kind of gonna be, and yeah, it was pretty much exactly what I thought it would be, and I loved it for it. So, but I must say, so I watched it this morning, and like yesterday I had been making Reeves, and so my skin is kind of sensitive, so like my hands were stinging this morning, and so like I was already kind of pissed off about like Pine.
Nice.
And then I watched this, and it kind of cheered me up quite a bit. Like,
Yeah.
Did you make Reeves like that guy?
Yeah, that one guy.
not quite. But yeah, it was great, and the trees are actually the likable characters. They're basically who we're rooting for.
Yep.
So
I liked the appearance of J-Rock.
Yeah.
that was great.
I forgot you mentioned that in the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, he was in this. And he was so funny too. He was just overly exuberantly happy dad. Like,
Oh, I love Christmas.
yeah,
Yeah.
hammed it up in that.
Yeah, I like the tree cutters. Those were my favorite characters.
Yeah.
They just reminded me of like all my uncle's friends and like, all my dad's friends. I'd be like hanging out with my dad or my uncle or whoever and them, and they would just be like terrifying to me, so they remind me a lot of them. So,
Do people hate trees that much?
or love trees that much.
Yeah.
There's that one guy who, yeah,
Oh yeah.
that was funny. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate trees that much. Maybe some people are really jovial about cutting down Christmas trees in that way and just being really mean to it and smashing them around and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. So, but the gore was good.
Yeah.
That was really good.
fun kills.
Yeah.
Like the couple when I went through face, that was awesome.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That was cool. That
Through the mouth, out the eye,
yeah.
in the eye, back through the other dude's mouth.
That made me think
I
like
was
it reminded me of like a lot of like Italian horror movies and stuff. Like the kind of nasty stuff that happens in a lot of those. It reminded me of that. Like
yeah.
oh man. Oh yeah, spoilers for people who are sensitive. There is an animal death. So
Oh, yeah. Randomly too.
yeah.
Like, what did that cat do to the tree?
Yeah. I'd still laugh though, I gotta say.
Oh, and the infant death too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, something happens at the end that's pretty bad.
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I knew they were going far. I didn't know they would go like that far with it.
I know, it was like the perfect ending, you know, because
Yeah.
they had to find a way to top everything that
Yeah.
happened before that. And, you know, what better way to top, you know,
Yeah.
that than just to, yeah, do so like the most shocking thing you can pretty much think of in a movie. you
Yeah, I
know?
didn't think they could top the eyeball tree snake through mouths and shit, but they did.
I didn't think they could, you know, top the death of the cat. I thought, like, I was like, wow, they're really like throwing in everything so early, you know,
Yeah.
like the murders just barely got started. You know?
You gotta go right for it with only 16 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and if you see, and you know, he did the same thing with Hobo with a Shotgun. You know, it's like it was basically just a series of progressively insane, you know, situations that just, yeah, and then it just ends in the most like batshit way you could think of, basically. You know, he's good with his like momentum and like building and all that. So yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah,
So,
it was fun.
yeah. You know, definitely a must see if you're into like Italian gore, and like or Italian gore horror movies and like splatter films, and if you're into like extreme horror, it's a good one. You know, it's about killer Christmas trees. You know, but it's like a serious like
Yeah.
thing. You know, it's not like a Gremlins type of thing, or you know, the next movie which we'll be talking about. But
I like
you know,
to,
I'm not gonna jump there yet.
Just a side note, my mind, this is headcanon for me. It's like a meanwhile in Canada from The Happening. Like a short vignette of what's going on in Canada during The Happening.
Yeah. I think, yeah, no, that's probably right. Yeah, I mean, I like that idea of this taking place in the same universe as The Happening. Yeah. Like if M. Night Shyamalan even went in this direction, that would be so cool, you know? Just,
Yeah.
that would make me love him as a director, you know? Yeah. All right, cool. Well, do we rate it or I don't know, can we?
I don't even know if it's...
I did. It's on Letterboxd, so
Oh,
I rated
okay.
it.
Was it?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
No, I'd give it probably a 3 just because I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to everybody. I mean, like, I know, like, maybe some younger people who are really into horror films and stuff and are, like, getting into it. Like, I'd be like, probably not one to watch. For people who are, you know, into more fun types of horror movies, like, probably not one to watch. But people who like gnarly, you know, types of movies, I'd say definitely watch it. So.
Yeah, I'd give it a 4 even, just because it's 16 minutes of pure fun.
Yeah.
And I would recommend it to nearly everyone except for like my mother maybe, or yeah, people just with a disclaimer, there's like heavy gore, but it is super fake gore. I mean,
Yeah.
everything is legit dolls
It's
and rubber
definitely, like,
faces.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Actually,
it's
I
funny
guess
as hell.
I guess personally, like if I were going personally, I'd give it a 4. So
I also gave it a 4.
yeah,
Nice, yeah.
that
That's
sounds good. Yeah. Cool. All right. Okay, so then after that, so the next one is the other one that you chose, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And that was Elves.
Okay.
Nine.
So
Which, first of all, shouldn't be called elves plural.
Yeah.
Because there's one elf in the whole thing.
yeah. And what year was it made? I'm sorry. I think I interrupted.
Yeah, 1989.
Oh, 1989. Okay.
Yeah.
They did make a I don't know if it was a joke on that, but like the little girl said elves, and then like someone meanly corrected her elves.
Yeah.
There was like,
That's the main.
I was like, oh, what the hell?
That's the only reason it's titled Elves is because the person who made it probably wanted people to start pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. But anyway, go on. So,
I'm trying to remember it because I watched it like a week ago. So,
okay.
so the Sisters of Anti-Christmas, that's how it opens. It's
Yeah.
doing some ritual in the woods or something,
Yeah.
Yep.
and they summon a evil elf, and then there's another side plot of Nazis or something trying to capture this elf or people and mate with the elf.
Yeah. It kind of was. Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, that's basically the plot. I mean, as strange as that sounds, that's exactly what this movie was about. Like,
As far as movies we've done on the podcast, this was one of the more plot-heavy ones.
actually, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much mostly plot and maybe only a little bit of like there was a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
So what made you choose this one?
I was just looking at a list of Christmas movies.
Yeah.
This one just looked like one of the crazier storylines.
Yeah.
I just
Oh yeah.
read a brief synopsis. I'm like, Nazis and elves, I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, did it deliver or
Yeah. I mean, you can't really expect too much with that, but
yeah, it was a bit of a puzzling movie because it was kind of trying to be a lot of things, but it like didn't really because it was trying to sort of be like a horror movie, and yet it was also kind of trying to be a little bit of a corporate message, like, or a message against like corporate, like how Christmas is like a corporate thing, and it's trying to kind of explore that aspect of it as well, like the superficiality of Christmas, but it's just that it kind of all gets sort of so shuffled into like all this inexplicable stuff that's going on that doesn't quite add up, but
Yeah. My favorite part of the movie was the fucking little brother.
yeah.
He was just fucking swearing left and right. I think.
Yeah.
Very pervy, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked him, his sass, just saying "fuck you" and shit.
yeah, I wrote down one
Yeah,
of
that
his
was
quotes. It was a fucking little ninja troll. That was one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, and of course he's like the first one who like sees like yeah, because it like when it came in through his window or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, that was, and like he was also like that whole family was pretty messed up. Like.
Yeah. That's what incest does to a family.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, the first scene with the grandfather just rolls in and slaps her.
I laughed so hard at that. It was
Yeah.
because they were hard slaps too. Two of them.
Yeah.
Two like
Yeah,
wind-ups.
like she's dealing with him, and then she has to deal with grief. Like there's like the mom, or whoever. Like what was like? Why was she so angry? Like
I don't know. Oh, and another animal death in this movie.
oh yeah,
With her.
yeah, that was messed up.
Yeah. That mom was a bit the whole way through.
Yeah, definitely. Like the mom was definitely the worst character in the movie. Like, I liked the death scene of the Santa Claus guy, the guy who like went into the bathroom.
Oh yeah, and like did coke.
Yeah.
It's an 80s movie. You gotta do some coke.
Yeah.
Santa likes oral.
Yes, I wrote that down. That's a quote.
That was awful. Yeah, like
I don't know.
it's so messed up. It's like, and this is like, yeah, like I'm kind of compelled by how like there's all these movies about bad Santa Claus people, like Santa Claus people who like sit on the chair or whatever, and they act like total like crazy psychos. Like now I understand why the movie Bad Santa was made, because I didn't realize how many of these movies actually existed. Like
Yeah.
so for some reason I never pieced it together. But this movie was probably my favorite death scene of a Santa Claus person.
Yeah.
That was up there with like that scene in Don't Open Till Christmas, which, or I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of a different movie. No, okay, but there's like a scene in some movie where like this Santa Claus guy, like he gets slaughtered and then thrown into a trash can and then lit on fire. It's just like, oh my god.
Wow.
I forget which one that was, but I was just like, my gosh, like do people hate Santa Claus people that much? Like,
I guess so.
Yeah.
There's so many movies.
Yeah. Just killing Santas.
yeah, like there's got to be a list of like movies with bad Santas in them. Like my niece is like, she loves Kurt Russell, and there was that Santa Claus movie that he was in. It was on Netflix or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But she likes him in that movie. But in a way, that's kind of a bad Santa movie too, because he kind of looks like he's homeless, like a homeless Santa, because he's all dirty.
You mean like Dan Haggerty in this movie?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this movie was kind of nuts, you
It was
know.
wild.
Yeah.
It was a wild ride.
Yeah, I mean, it was an eccentric 80s movie is what I would describe it as being, you know.
Yeah, pretty
So-
high concept for an 80s movie, I think.
Yeah, definitely ambitious, you know. Maybe not as ambitious as the next movie we'll talk about, but you know, still pretty ambitious. Like it's, you know, I'm actually surprised that like the plot is even followable. Like
Yeah, I was too, actually. I was like, like when they started throwing Nazis into it, I was like, oh, here we go. It's
Yeah.
gonna be untangible.
Yeah.
The plot, but
And
it's pretty coherent throughout.
yeah,
Surprisingly, that was the biggest surprise. Is there's a lot of exposition, which kind of drags it down, but
yeah, that's
they're just making a coherent plot at least.
yeah. But I do agree though, the exposition was kind of the sort of the biggest drag.
Yeah.
I'm not totally crazy about movies about like little creatures killing people. I like the Gremlins movies, but beyond that, like I'm not really into like Critters or Ghoulies or Leprechaun or any of those types of movies. I'm not even really into the Child's Play Chucky movies either. Like for some reason I just don't find little things to be terrifying. And but having said that, like this movie wasn't really the same kind of film as those. So I at least kind of liked that it was like different in that way, you know?
Yeah, the elf took like a back seat to the Nazi plot, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting a lot more elves.
Yeah.
Since it was called Elves.
Yeah. I mean, it was just one elf, like you said, you know?
And what did you think about the way it looks? It like had one expression the whole movie.
I thought, yeah, I was talking about this too. Yeah, it was just the bust, really. Like, I don't even think it had arms attached to it. It just had like, stick arms when they needed it.
Honestly,
and when it ate, it just put it didn't even.
Yeah.
There was no closing of the mouth with that thing. It just put a hand to its mouth to signify eating.
Yeah, it honestly kind of reminded me of that in Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. That weird, like that thing that the Corey Feldman character makes, the that doll head thing, like that monster doll head thing that he like turns on at one point. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Like it looked like it didn't look too good, but you didn't really see enough that many shots of it, like that, so it didn't really bother me that much.
Yeah.
But the shots that you did see of it, like you could tell not only that it wasn't even finished, like you said, like it wasn't even a full creation, but it also looked pretty robotic. I mean,
Yeah.
the design looked awkward. Didn't look intimidating or scary.
Yeah, you saw its feet a lot too, but you never saw both of them together.
Yeah. There were times where it felt like this movie was trying to be a comedy, and then there were times where like it was being a comedy like by accident.
Yeah.
Like,
The kid brother was pretty comedic.
I agree. He was kind of the comic relief, really. I mean,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I got to give it credit for its ambition and, you know, its whole overall style. I mean, I just kind of wish that it had been like a little bit more of like an energetic type of thing. It was kind of bleak and grim, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people standing around. It was, I don't know, it was a bit, I don't know, it was definitely a feel bad type of Christmas movie, I guess is what I'd call it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I'm still glad I watched it. You know, it kept me entertained.
Yeah. I was entertained for sure,
Yeah.
just because I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was pretty weird.
Yeah.
What did you think of the weird blurry deaths of the elf? I didn't.
I thought it was dumb.
Yeah. I didn't get it.
She just stabbed the ground with a crystal.
Yeah,
And then everything went blurry.
Yep.
I was confused. I felt like I missed a key point. I don't know. Maybe they forgot to put in like the shot that would have made it all make sense. But I didn't understand why it got blurry. I was kind of confused.
Yeah.
Like, so the grandpa was whispered in her ear how to kill it, and apparently all he said is "you'll know." Like, like that's just like, okay, thanks, Grandpa.
Yeah.
When the time, like, that's what I think she said when she was about to, like, she had the crystal or whatever. She's like, and they're asking him how, and she's like, oh, he just said, "I'll know, I'll feel it," or whatever. It's like, okay, thanks, Gramps.
That grandfather was kind
Daddy,
of just,
Dad, Gramps.
Yeah. But yeah, Grandpa. Yeah, that guy was kind of just a waste of space and waste of character anyway. So I was kind of I just wanted that whole thing to be done with. And pretty much most of the characters in this movie sucked. Like,
Yeah.
If they weren't horrible, they were screwed up. I mean, or it just, yeah. Including the main character. I mean, I like the opening scene. You know, that was funny.
Yeah.
So,
I thought this was gonna like be another 80s mall movie because like 75% of it took place in the mall.
yeah. And there was no reason for it to even take place in that mall either. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just happened to be the location. But you know, the mall is like, that's like literally the last place that I want to be on Christmas. So I'd rather see it in a movie than see it in real life. So I at least appreciated that I got my fill. You know.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I also got my fill from another movie too that we're going to be talking about later. But yeah. Overall, I think I mean, I enjoyed it just fine. I've seen worse 80s movies. And Yeah, I mean, for the kind, I'd rather see a feel bad kind of Christmas movie than a feel good Christmas movie because I honestly hate Christmas. I mean, I celebrate it. It's important, you know. I think it's important to like hold the tradition, and I do things for Christmas every year. You know, because I think it's important to. But there's so many things about Christmas that are just so punishing. I mean, the reef making yesterday was a perfect example. Like that I did. Like, why do we put ourselves through this? Why do we hurt our hands? You know, why do we go to stores that are overcrowded and buy stuff like plastic stuff to give to people? Like, I've never been a fan of Christmas. I mean, so I like movies that kind of spit in the face of that. And this movie definitely did that. So
Yeah, I think that's why I prefer horror Christmas movies than regular Christmas movies.
Yeah. I mean, because Christmas, I mean, it really is kind of a horrifying holiday in a lot of ways. And I like when films are honest about that. Yeah.
I'll go again. I love Christmas. I do hate the consumerism and stuff because I honestly don't buy people gifts that much, and I ask people not to buy me stuff.
Yeah.
But I do love the holiday season, and it does have to do with my birthday being around. It's just the whole month of December in general I like, and a lot of the times if you can ignore the Grinches, there is a happy or joyful feeling in the air. But there are so many fucking Grinches. It's hard to ignore them. But I love Christmas.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you do, because I do think that a lot of people tend, and I admit I do this too. I do think that a lot of people tend to dwell on the negative.
And I think a lot of times it's the popular thing to do, to hate on Christmas. I think some people don't really, but everyone hates on it because it's cool to hate on Christmas.
Yeah.
Just blame the internet.
Yeah.
Yep. Fucking internet.
I mean, a lot of people, but one thing though I think is cool though, because a lot of people I know who hate Christmas, many people who hate it because their birthday happens to be in December. But you're the first person I know whose birthday is in December, but you also like Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's cool, you know. And
I think it's one or the other. You either like it or hate it because of that.
And
I know a couple people too with it, and some do, and some don't.
And also, I mean, really, taking out the whole Christmas aspect of it, you did indicate one aspect of the experience of Christmas that I do love is spending time with family and friends and loved ones and all that stuff, and actually celebrating something together and doing something together. That is something that I do love. And really, once Christmas is done, it's done, and it's satisfying after that, you know, which is pretty much the opposite of the Super Bowl, where there's so much buildup and then it's over and it's just the most deflating feeling in the world. It's, you know, I love the experience of the Super Bowl, but I hate when it's over. It's like the worst thing ever, you know, because then you realize, wow, I just wasted like an entire Sunday, you know. But Christmas is never a waste of time, you know? And so I guess, you know, maybe that's why we punish ourselves, you know, because it ends up being worth it for the time we spend with the people we love.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go.
So on that, that aspect of it, I do love, you know? So I don't know, maybe I don't hate Christmas.
Yeah.
I just hate everything building up to Christmas, I think.
Just the consumerism part. It's always worse about anything, really.
And maybe I just feel like I've just been exposed to that too much. I feel like maybe I've just been oversaturated by that, you know. So.
Yeah, I'm also just really good at putting up blinders and ignoring shit I don't want to even partake in or care about.
Yeah.
Where some people just can't. Like, look at Twitter.
Oh my gosh.
That's a perfect example of people who can't ignore shit that they don't like.
Yeah, I can't go on Twitter.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. But anyway. So as far as Christmas goes, Elves is definitely my kind of Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I maybe either 2 or 3. I haven't decided yet. So.
I'd give it a 2, yeah, because it was pretty. There was the actual a plot, but it was kind of creepy, weird, icky plot.
Yeah.
Incest, revolving around incest. but like it was an interesting little. And the plot actually was a plot, so we'll get into that
Yeah, I wasn't really a fan of the more perverse elements that you describe. I'm not against movies that explore that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel necessary
It
to
didn't
this
all.
at all.
No.
It really felt excessive.
Yeah. Like if you're talking about Nazi experimentation,
Yeah.
you could have done like artificial insemination and it wouldn't be that weird and it would have fit in line with Nazi experiments, but no, they went the whole incest route.
Yeah, which it's like that's just kind of one too many discrepancies, I think, for my taste. It's like you already have the evil killer elves, you have the anti-consumerism, and then you have the Nazi stuff, and then you're gonna put incest on top of it. Like,
Right.
it's just kind of it's a bit too big of a sandwich to and if they were gonna go that route with it, it should have been like a bigger movie, instead of a cheap horror picture like that came out in the 80s. It's just So, but yeah, what did you think overall?
Pretty much the same thing, just like convoluted with weird shit like that. So that I also gave it a 2.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning toward the 2, but I'd have to think a little bit more on the anti-consumerist aspect of it because I don't know. It's interesting that a movie like that kind of came out in the 80s. I think. I mean, there were a bunch of them, but this one came out the year I was born, and I don't know. I still got to think about what that means to me, I think. So I'm going to give it, I'd say 2/3 question mark.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So then after this is my choice, which was Rare Exports, which is a Finnish picture. So, and I know that this film sort of has a semi cult following to it, and I happen to quite enjoy it a lot. I like the atmosphere. I've watched it a few times, actually. I like the atmosphere of it. I like films that kind of take place in the snow in the dead of winter. I tend to like films that blend sort of upbeat elements with things that are not upbeat, the kind of more unsavory things. But I also liked that it was sort of a fantasy picture. I liked that there was sort of I like the sense of humor, and I don't know, it's one that I've always really liked for some reason. So
yeah, I enjoyed it. It's better than any of the films we watched in general, just on a pure cinematic level. It was actually well put together and everything. There was a plot, but it was fairly basic though. This is watchable for sure. But
nothing much really happens until about the last 20 minutes. So.
I like you said, it has a cult following, so I expected it to be like, because I see a bunch of horror people posting about it, so I thought it was a straight up horror movie. So,
I didn't see it as a horror at all. Action,
so
whatever or something.
Yeah,
I was a little disappointed, but it was still enjoyable.
Yeah. I think the fact that a lot of people talk about it does sort of hype it up a little too much. Like, it's good, but it's not that good, Yeah. So, I mean, I think I watched it because I watched it sort of around the time that it was getting like a lot of acclaim, and I purposefully tried to kind of avoid reading about it. I think I watched it along with like 2 other movies that kind of came out around that time that I didn't know anything about, and so I went into this one pretty blind initially, and and it's I don't know, how do either you want to try to describe the plot? It's not exactly simple to summarize because there's sort of a backstory to it. It's like I said, it takes place in Finland. There's a bit of a situation going on involving I guess just to generally summarize, there's a beast or a demon, which is Santa Claus, who is sort of summoning this army of elves to kidnap people, and
Kids.
Yeah.
Kidnapping kids, yeah.
Yeah. And it's basically like this whole plot gets discovered like at the beginning of the film by 2 of the young characters, and then because they're kids, they aren't really able to do much. They end up pretty much spending about an hour of the movie waiting for the adults to kind of catch up. And then, once it all kind of comes together, they do battle and they go to rescue them. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple, kind of fairly basic type of fairy tale plot. I mean, and but it's done in kind of a stylish way. It's it's definitely it's definitely very much like naturistic, and it's also about kind of the importance of taking back what's yours, So in that sense, it's a traditional. There's like an element of tradition to it.
Yeah.
And which is something about Christmas that I value, is the traditional aspect. And then also like it's kind of like it's a fairy tale in the sense that it gives meaning to the idea of Santa Claus. It just happens to be a really dark and sinister meaning rather than a sort of upbeat fantasy meaning that we're used to seeing.
Well, I think it was Krampus technically, right?
Technically, it was Krampus.
And it comes from the place like that tale originated in like those Scandinavian countries, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And pretty much the only reason that they're calling it Santa Claus in this movie is because the twist is because of the twist ending at the very end of the film. That's really the only reason why. Otherwise, it is basically Krampus.
Yeah.
So. I like that this is a movie where the main character is a kid who isn't an idiot, who's actually like making smart decisions. And
I didn't
I like
didn't
that.
think that much. Honestly. I thought he was a bratty kid again in general. Like he wouldn't stay put when his dad was telling him to 90% of the time. Like, and then like 90% of the time his dad was like, stay over there, like when he was checking the wolf trap or when he was checking on the Santa guy or when they captured. And then and there was just that annoying kid trope of not staying put.
Yeah.
And then I also just found it funny. He fucking jumped right into that spike pit. And like it looked like he just jumped right between a bunch of spikes. And it was like, holy shit. That surprised me. Like, whoa, man, you got some confidence in your aiming abilities. So I thought he definitely did some stupid shit. But like he did the research and of course adults aren't gonna believe a little kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was stupid in the sense that behaviorally it was really stupid, but then it usually ended up working out somehow, which is a bit of a cliche, and it's something that I see often. And it tends to be a cliche in horror movies as well. Although sometimes it can work out. Like there was this horror movie I saw on Sci-Fi several years ago called Splinter, which was about like killer moss, basically, like in a convenience store. And there's like, it starts off, it's like a hostage situation, and then they go to a convenience store, and then there's like killer alien moss that's like growing and killing people. And the characters in this movie, they take a lot of really dumb chances and make a lot of really like stupid decisions that I would never make in a situation like that. But somehow their decisions actually end up working out for the better, and they end up accomplishing things. So that is something about this movie that is definitely very present. But I'm willing to forgive it just because it's so fantastical, like by the end of it, that I don't know. I didn't really necessarily care whether these characters lived or died. I was kind of more in it for the spectacle of it. And just sort of
spectacle was good. Yeah. But I thought all the characters were pretty bland, like one note.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the sudden turn. The kid who was, kind of scaredy cat kid. He just immediately turned into a badass for no reason, like except for being proven right. Like usually in those type of situations, his dad or his friend would have died, and then, in horrors like that happens, and then the main character turns into a badass because of an event that happened during the movie. Nothing really happened. He just was proven right, and then all the grown-ups just started automatically listening to his plan and whatever he fucking said.
Yeah.
Which is just a little okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, pretty much all the characters in it were cartoon characters,
Yeah, you could say like the adults, like realistically said, okay, you were right, but let's let the adults handle this now.
Yeah.
That's probably what would have happened. But they're like, no, let's listen to this kid.
Yeah.
And then no one died either. So, spoilers. Nobody died.
Except for the wasn't that one guy who got something in the head?
Oh yeah, was he a good guy though, or was he?
Well, I didn't really think of him as a good guy, but I mean, I thought, because he was the guy who was leading the excavation at the beginning, so it was kind of his fault that all this stuff was happening in the first place anyway. So he got killed.
Yeah, I didn't think he was a good guy really. He was trying to make money.
Yeah.
And shit.
Yeah. So he was the he was the corporate pawn in this story. So he's the one who got it, yeah, I mean, I think though, I guess, and actually it's funny because like a lot of things you're describing kind of remind me of like a lot of the reasons I hate the movie Home Alone tend to be like these kinds of things. I can't relate to any of the characters. I think that like everything that's going on is obnoxious and annoying, and I found the main character in that film to be really annoying and stupid, So, but for some reason, it didn't bother me here. This movie was actually had a relatively low budget, which I thought was like for a movie, like when I forget, I don't know, I wrote it down, but then I didn't bring it, but because I actually did write down notes for these, but I forgot to bring my notes, but I don't know, I thought the budget for the movie, I was surprised by the budget of it because a lot of the visuals, like I wouldn't say the visuals looked like that good.
Yeah, you could tell the helicopter scene was total CG. Like
right.
The kid on it looked like a video game character.
Exactly.
As he was riding.
Yeah, but it didn't look like the kind of CG that you see in a lot of like cheaper budgeted films where it just looks completely blocky and artificial, like almost polygon objects. Like you could barely even tell that it's a shit. I've seen some really awful CG in movies, and so this, like, in comparison to a lot of what I've seen, even in mainstream movies, this looked pretty decent. So, and I thought that they made pretty good use of its setting. Yeah, I don't know. I really just dug the whole the vibe of the film, and I also like that it's short too. It's only about 80 minutes or so. So it's not like there's that much you have to digest, But yeah. I don't know. I like it enough to give it a 4. And I've seen it enough times to feel like feel pretty comfortable in that. I dig it.
Okay. I mean, as far as movies that we try to go and see on this podcast, it'd be a 5 easy because it's not even really on the same level in my opinion. It's actually an actual movie,
right?
So on the scale of this podcast, I'd give it like on a 5, but in reality, it's probably like a 3.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's good. It has some decent plot and it's fun, entertaining, not hard to watch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I also gave it a 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Initially, like I almost didn't choose this one. I was gonna go with Christmas Evil first, because that fits more in line with the kind of films that we watch on this. But I don't know. For some reason I just decided on this one just because I felt like it was different enough. But then again, all 3 of these were pretty different. So it's
It's good to see some decent movies too for our sanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
It had been on my watch list for a while, so if you didn't pick it, I probably would have put it off another year.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I had no idea what it was about though.
Yeah. I have it on Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray actually comes with Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like it's weird because like the case doesn't say that that's a special feature, but Yeah, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians is on the Blu-ray. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think that Blu-ray is out of print now too.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Hopefully it wasn't for Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. Like suddenly just somebody decided that they wanted the rights to it or something. Which, good luck with that. Unless you're planning a remake, I wouldn't buy the rights to that one. So it might be in public domain actually. So cool.
Speaking of remakes,
Yeah.
my choice was A Christmas Story 2.
Mm.
And I call it almost a remake because it was basically beat for beat the first one, but so bad. Like, this movie angered me on another level. Because just like, I don't know about your guy, my favorite Christmas movie is A Christmas Story. It's one of my favorite movies ever. Like, besides being a good Christmas movie, I think it's a great coming of age movie.
Yeah.
And just has, I don't know, I think it's the perfect like Christmas movie, coming of age movie.
Yeah. I rewatched it actually before I watched this. And yeah, no, I like A Christmas Story a lot actually.
Yeah. So that's why I chose this one, and I chose it also because I saw it was playing on TV a couple years ago, and I turned it on. Couldn't get past the first 5 minutes. Switch the channel. I was like, no. And the exact same thing, almost to the mark, happened. Like, I had to pause and write down a note, which was at the 5 minute mark, the narration was already just driving me insane. Like, in the first movie, it works great because it's well written, for one, and it kind of does the connection of the adults to a 9-year-old boy. Like, it perfectly narrates the thoughts of a 9-year-old boy, so adults can appreciate it as well. And above all, it's well written. Like, yeah, there's some verbose wordage and colorful, what do you call them? Analogies. In this one, you can fucking tell they were trying so hard to nail that narration that at the 5 minute mark, I was like, okay, they're saying just a bunch of big fucking words, and I can't follow it because they're just saying big words to try and replicate what they did in the first one.
Yeah.
Which was not doable because they didn't have the writers for it, apparently, and like they were just trying so hard on that narration piece, which worked amazingly. And like, narration in films generally isn't good, but like in that first one, it works well. It's, part of the story because it's a story, so it's you're listening to a guy tell a story. And this one, it was just the narration. Like, they used terms and shit a lot too from the first one. Like, there was veritable. I noticed, right? Like, because the only time I really ever hear that word is when I'm watching A Christmas Story 1.
Yeah.
He says it maybe once. I know he says it once, but maybe twice or something.
Yeah.
And when they said it in this one, it was almost like an exact line. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Don't stop it. And then, like, at the end, he uses that same line at the end, and all was right with the world. I'm like, come on. And there's so many lines like that throughout the movie that are one for one, just like, remember this? We said this. And they dive deeper into the furnace fighting of his dad.
Yeah, I got really sick of the furnace jokes.
It was so dumb. In the first one, it's a cute character quirk. A cute, like, that he's like, fight in the furnace, but then they just expound on it and ruin the entire joke of the first movie. Not in it of itself, but like, it doesn't work because they keep expounding on it. It's like, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's no longer a quirk anymore. Now it's actually, now you're making it literally part of the story.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a part of a story that doesn't need any more extra stuff. Like,
it wasn't even a part of the story in the first one. It was a joke. It was a bit.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what most of the things were in this movie, was they turn little bits and jokes, not the actual core of a Christmas story, into just like the plots. Like,
Yeah.
and it just because I love the Christmas Story so much, this one angered me so much.
Yeah.
And like, I can kind of see how it would be all right for people who aren't into it. Like, it would be something to pass the time. While it's still awful, bad all around, in my opinion. I can see how a normal not fan of the first one would say, 2 stars, 3 stars, watchable, but not again. And again, okay, and then
Oh yeah.
so I'll just go with the plot is Ralphie this time instead of a BB gun.
Oh yeah.
He's trying to get a fucking car.
Yeah.
Oh yay.
Yeah, because now he's like
Typical.
adolescent.
Yeah, he's getting his driver's license in a couple weeks. Yeah, so original. He's gonna get a car, and like the way he reveals it underneath the hood, he gives a little like how like he expands on like all the little pump action bolt sight rifle whatever with the BB gun. I can't call it off the top. They do that with the car.
Yeah.
Just little stupid trinkets and stuff that they use big words to explain on the car. So it's like that's beat for beat. There's those flashbacks again. There's just it's a copy and paste basically of the first one and worse.
Yeah, just taking place a few years later.
Yeah, and then the set too, you could tell they were on a fucking set the whole time, whereas the first one I think was filmed in that house. I know that it was a Christmas Story house that they filmed the outside of.
Was this made for TV?
I don't know. I think it was straight to DVD is all I know.
Okay. Because if it were actually like if it weren't like straight to DVD, or I mean it must have been. If this hadn't been made by, if this wasn't made by like a group of like budget people like folks who just so happen to own the rights to the first one, so they decided to just make a sequel, like I would have been surprised, because this really was pretty cheap looking, like and it looked like a made for TV movie. So
and they also one thing I noticed, because like when you watch the first one there's like a blur, like, you know, but it's a filter blur, like that kind of gives it that nostalgic set in the 50s feel. Like just how and then they tried it again in this, but it's so well, like not well lit, but like a lot brighter.
You can tell it's computer.
Yeah, and you can tell it's just they're going for that look, but it doesn't work because they're straight to DVD crap quality kind of.
Yeah. Like the way they do it in the first one is much more subtle. I mean, it's hard to even really compare this to the first one, to be honest, because the first movie like is actually a quality film. And you can tell that there was a confident vision behind it, whereas this one doesn't at all. And I have a pretty high tolerance for family movies. I mean, I even like some bad ones, you know. But yeah, I did not like this movie at all.
Because the first one, you know, didn't like harp on it. Sure made consumerism was, you know, in it, of course, but it was more about a kid getting the ultimate Christmas present. It wasn't necessarily about the consumerism as much.
Well, like,
I mean, because it showed like, they're a family that isn't doing great. You know, the dad's a cheapskate. They have to fight, like, you know, do the furnaces. They mention, like, you know, when they're buying the Christmas tree, there's like, oh, I don't know if we can afford it. And the dad's like, even though he's a penny pincher, he's a frugal man, he's like, Christmas only comes around once a year, what the hell. So you can tell that they're, you know, a lower middle class family getting by. And then so like consumerism isn't necessarily up front, and it's a touching moment when like the old man, who's a stern, you know, kind of hard ass, gives in and gives his son the ultimate present, where you think all hope is lost, but no, the dad, yes, is harsh, but he's a loving dad. And then this one, they just fuck the dad's character up so bad. Like, he's just turns into like just a douchebag that, like, he is nice to his kids this time, like, which is good, but like there's no substance to him, I feel, at all, other than him being kind of a dick, frugal guy. not wanting to get them turkey, even though he's a bona fide turkaholic. He wasn't gonna spend an extra few fucking dollars on a turkey.
Yeah.
Like completely negating like one of the main character aspects of the first fucking film.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Well, I mean, and,
no.
and also like, well, okay. Well, what was your opinion?
I just thought it was straight trash, to be honest.
Okay.
And I skipped the last 20 minutes. I didn't finish it.
Yeah, no, I watched it last night and fell asleep during the last 20 minutes, but I rewatched it this morning just to know how it concluded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read about it, like very predictable on how it ended.
Yep.
Yeah, I did watch the last 20 minutes, like from beginning to end, and I forgot I'd seen the movie within an hour. I mean, yeah. And actually, you mentioned the whole like him wanting the gun, the BB gun, and how like not only was that like from his perspective, it was like the the ultimate Christmas present, but then it also kind of made the film itself about something too, because it was like, because I mean, we've all been kids, and when you're a kid, you get fixated on things. So it was kind of about that sort of rite of passage, and it ends up being an experience in the first film where he gets what he wants. He does get his toy, but he's also humbled by the experience as well, and he's smart enough to survive it. And it ends up working out, and you could tell that like he's grown and learned from the experience.
Yeah, that's why I love it. It's like it is a coming of age story more than a Christmas story, and it's like you can tell that is probably Ralphie's last Christmas believing in Santa.
Yeah.
Like just because of not in a bad way or anything, he just grew up, and he's like you can tell by the end of the movie he's a little older. He's a more not like an adult, but yeah, he's a teenage preteen kid that doesn't probably believe in Santa anymore.
Exactly.
And in a good way, not like some asshole ruined it for him, but like no, he grew up and grew out and moved on.
Yeah, the original film is a beautiful film because it reminds us all of what we used to love about Christmas, like and what Christmas was at one point in our lives and what it meant. And it's a good movie because you get to spend time in that world again. I can understand why people who have never felt that way about Christmas might not really connect with it, and that's I respect that, but that's what makes the first Christmas story amazing. Yeah,
and the other thing too is like it's not even Christmas itself, it's like what it is to be a kid too.
Yeah, like,
and it perfectly encapsulates that and makes the adults, because just the whole, it's a nostalgia bomb for sure.
Yeah,
like it's like, oh yeah, like not everyone of course, but like that's what Christmas felt like as a kid. Like I remember loving Christmas for days off, just the school year, like even when they're in the school, it was like, oh yeah, everyone's just fucking around during Christmas. And like, and the BB gun itself I thought was a really nice present, like just to signify childhood. Because like I'm not even a gun guy or a violent guy, but like a BB gun would be a badass toy to have, boy or girl. I think a girl would get at least 10 minutes of fun out of it. Like it's not like, it's just a good representation of an ultimate Christmas gift, I feel. And then when they go to having it being a car in this film, it's just so like the car thing just up front and like in your face, like, oh, this is drawing into consumerism more than like anything else.
Because like part of the reason he wanted the gun in the first movie was because he also wanted to kind of, because he was growing up and he wanted to kind of exert his own sort of sense of independence, which getting some kind of like air rifle or some kind of firearm or weapon, whether it be like a knife or something, is in some sense a part of that kind of experience, so really like the fact that the first film is about him kind of coming of age and growing as a person, then you get to this movie and he's exactly the same person as he was in the first movie. He hasn't changed at all.
There's really nothing they could do with the second movie doing it in like the same way. they did it because he's already basically at the end of the first one. He essentially is this character. And like, what are you gonna do? Turn him into an adult? No, because you need to do that a little later.
Yeah.
Probably when he has kids would be a apt sequel starting point if they were to make one. Like, because that would be your next journey. Like,
Yeah.
Or one of my ideas would be fixate on fuck the car, him trying to, win over the girl.
That would have been more interesting.
Him getting a present for her, instead of getting a present, it's about him trying to gift a good present to someone he cares about. Or, so it was just so lazily done where it could have been easily fixed. Not make me fucking mad. Like, I could have said, okay, this is shitty, a shitty made to DVD movie, but at least it didn't infuriate me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, so there was other things. Like, I think, okay, they could have more expound if they were going to go with this timeline, expound on the fact instead of, again, if they wanted to go with the car route, make the relationship between him and his father a little bit more give and take. And there wasn't really much there except for he's a good, and this time he's like a nicer dad, but kind of just a dick.
Yeah.
Or like that kind of relationship. Or I even thought what would have been interesting is him, now that he's older, him guiding his little brother Randy through the
same kind of things.
Same kind of thing that happened in the first ish. Like,
that would have been so much better, but instead they just tried to. I mean, what was going on with Ralphie wasn't even interesting, and like the idea of Randy not wanting to go ice fishing with his dad, honestly, in some ways was the more relatable plot, because we've all wanted to do things that we didn't want to do when we were a kid, and so that aspect of the plot was actually more interesting, but they didn't even really do much with it. Like, that kind of happened, and then they moved on, Yeah,
it was like a shot-for-shot remake, almost. It's like what it would be more apt to be. Not shot-for-shot, but like beat for beat, like almost no changes. Same similar flashback type shit. Same.
And how does a dad like that be that clueless about ice fishing? Like, that made no sense to me. Like, because like I know a lot of ice fishers. I've ice fished, and like, I just don't understand like why this father didn't know, like why the father character didn't know a thing about ice fishing. Like, if he was somebody who was gonna ice fish, like, I didn't understand why that had to be there. Like,
it was just, again, annoying the fact that that whole thing of them having to ice fish for destruction of one of the, like, a character trait of his father. Like, they made a fish dinner for Christmas,
which nobody.
I think maybe some foreign countries might do that, but like, no, your dad would have chipped in that money because he's a bona fide Turkaholic.
Yeah,
and he's frugal, but he puts in money where it matters.
Yeah, he's not frugal enough to not spend an extra $3. Like, that's ridiculous. You know, like, it was like a plot that didn't need to happen, but they had to have it happen because otherwise they wouldn't know like what to do, basically. Yeah. Like, it was a movie where the people who made this film didn't really know how to tell the story, so they just told the same story, but just mixed up the situations. They had Ralphie working at a mall with his friends. One of his friends so why did he put his tongue on the tube of air? Like,
just for the callback of the tongue on the frozen pole.
Which, you put your tongue on a frozen pole and that makes sense. It makes no sense to put your tongue inside of an air compressor.
Right? And there was no like, even if, so that was definitely just a rip to do it, just to say, remember the first one? But it wasn't even done well in that.
They ruined it.
Like,
so like, cartoony.
Yeah, it was like a fucking foot-long lips and tongue.
Yeah, it looked disgusting. It looked like silly putty. And
like, one thing that they didn't even like try and do the triple. One guy said, "I double dog dare you," just once, and it was like thrown away. Like, instantly you would have missed it if you blunk. But like, they didn't even try that with that tongue scene. The narration said, and like something along the lines of, "And old habits die harder, can't teach, like something like that. So they show him put his mouth like in there,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even a thing. It was just like a 30-second.
Yeah.
Remember the first movie?
It's awful. It's absolutely awful.
Yeah.
This is the kind of movie that like you're like you're having your family time, you're celebrating Christmas, then your family decides to watch Christmas Story, and it's like, oh, that was fun, and then Christmas Story 2 happens to be on afterwards. That's the one that your kids fall asleep 10 minutes into.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically a movie that exists for no reason other than to fill a block of time on a TV network late at night on Christmas when everybody's asleep anyway. So it's a useless movie. It's a useless movie. There's
100%
nothing
useless.
there's like nothing good about it.
No.
And I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, no, I hated it with a passion. It made me angry.
Mm. And now I'm really curious to see the Thanksgiving Story or My Summer Story or whatever the heck.
So I actually looked. I was just checking the IMDb too of it,
Yeah.
and it did mention that there's a third one. So
Oh.
this is technically the fourth of the family of the
Wow.
Parker family. I don't remember what it's called. I was looking it up.
Oh no.
So there was it was that My Summer Story, and it also had that other.
Yeah.
What was that subline? There was the second.
I think it's like it's all in the family, or it runs
Yeah,
in the
that was-
family, or
that's
something
probably
like
right.
that. Like you see, like these. I didn't even know this movie existed. Like, but although I don't know, but I was looking at it, and there was. I feel like I might have seen part of it.
Of this one?
Of the Thanksgiving, because I do remember seeing a movie about a bunch of kids being obsessed with tops.
That's my All in the Family one. Yeah.
Okay.
My Summer. That's what the
Yeah.
My Summer one was.
I know that I've seen a movie with that plot about kids being obsessed with tops. I just don't know if it was that movie.
Okay, yeah, so despite the title of A Christmas Story 2, it's the third to follow A Christmas Story, coming after... Oh, actually, Ollie Hopnoddle's Haven of Bliss was before It Runs in the Family,
Okay.
which was in 88,
All right.
and It Runs in the Family was 94, so this is technically A Christmas Story 4.
Okay. Wow. My God, that kid's taking a long time to grow up.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100. I hated it.
Yeah. Can we do 0? I'm
Yeah.
giving it 0.
Yeah.
I'm just-
Might be like out of all the movies we've watched on this show, this was probably the one that I liked the least, which is saying a lot because
Yeah.
Things was like pretty bad.
Yeah.
But honestly, I like the whole time. I mean, when I was watching A Christmas Story 2, like one of the things I was thinking was how much I actually probably enjoyed watching Things more. Like I actually might have. I don't know. I
Yeah,
have to
no.
think about it. But
I did just because it was an interesting, like
Yeah.
the movies we've done at least are something just to say we've at least seen them, just to
yeah,
say, oh, that was weird, oh, that was wild, oh, that was
Yeah.
interesting, oh, that was fucked up.
I'm glad.
This
I'm,
one was
yeah.
just one to, because I wanted to do it on here just because I knew it was bad,
Yeah.
and I love the first one is it holds a very dear place in my heart, so I just wanted to fucking whip it a new one.
Mm.
So that's why I chose
Yeah.
it, really.
I'm glad I saw it because I mean somebody's got to watch it. You know.
I
mean-
actually paid to watch this one too.
Me too.
Yeah.
I did as well.
Because if you
I
have that
rented it.
Google Play thing, you can get you can do surveys for Google and
Yeah.
get money. So it was technically free, but it came out of my survey money I made.
Yeah. Yeah, I rented it on Amazon for like $1.99 or something. It was
Not very-
not the worst, not the worst thing I've spent $1.99 on, but pretty bad.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
I was saying I wasn't gonna pay for that one. I used my friend's uncle's.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, that was a smart move. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about it?
I think Daniel Stern was a terrible choice for the dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't even look like he enjoyed being in it.
No.
I didn't think either of the parents were good choices at all.
Okay, the mom in the first movie, like I actually remember her character. The mom in this movie does like literally nothing.
No, she says
Yeah.
the same lines as the mom in the first one.
Yeah.
Like I think half of her lines are lines from the first movie,
Yeah.
just in different order.
Yeah, and she wraps Randy up with scarves again.
Again.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
I mean, she pretty much does nothing in this movie. She's big. She's just throwaway character, just a big like
Yeah.
zero person. You know, it's like a robot almost.
And the mom was so great in the first one. Like
Yeah.
it depicted like the kind of, home trodden, not, I don't know if home trodden's right, but like at home mom who, does get shit from the dad, but is a sweet older one, stern, giving Ralphie punishment when needed, but also, covering his ass when he gets in a fight. Like,
Yeah.
she had character. In this one, all of them were just like just one note fucking cutouts.
Basically, even his friends.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just there to imitate.
Yeah.
Just pure imitation.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene where he like. I mean, I can't stop talking about how many bad things are going on. There's so many bad things about this movie to talk about.
Because like in the first one, the friends weren't necessarily like that fleshed out, but they were real believable.
Yeah.
Like you could, they have lives at home. They were like,
Yeah. Whereas this one, they just
kind of fucking were there for no like.
Yeah.
One of the things I also loved about the first one is they did depict child behavior as well as very realistically. Like one of the lines I still use to this day is like right in like one of the first scenes, they're walking to school and like Ralphie or one of them says, "What's up?" And like one of his friends says, "What does it look like I'm doing? Picking goobers?" Like, yeah, that's not something we would say, but it's in the tone, the right cadence. They swear amongst themselves.
Yeah, it feels natural.
It's natural.
Yeah.
And this one, they're just kind of there to service the plot.
Yeah. Oh, which, by the way, the plot is about Ralphie having to make money.
Yeah, so it's not even about him trying to get the car.
Yeah.
It's more about him trying to fix up a fuck up he did, which is just...
Yeah, which
there's like a whole Three Stooges montage of them working at the goddamn mall, which is just dumb.
And it's awful. They're the worst employees I've ever seen. I wouldn't hire them. Like,
right?
Absolutely awful. Starting conflicts for no reason. Being rude, not paying attention, being rude to customers, attacking Santa Claus. I mean, everything you don't want to do when you're working at a mall on Christmas. For whatever reason, they decide to do it just to be as obnoxious as possible. And then, spoilers, by the way, Ralphie, like, he gets the money and then he doesn't even buy the car with it. He ends up, buying a Christmas dinner with for some poor family, which was nice of him. But
so what I didn't get with that was he said they needed a tire.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean? And I still didn't get it after he said he bought a tire. Is that like some term for food?
There was one shot that, like, behind them was a car without a tire.
Oh.
One shot.
It's like a blink if you miss it.
I missed it then because, like, I was saying, why do they need a tire? And then he helped him out by taking him to the Chinese lunch, which again, callback. I wouldn't have. It wasn't the worst of them.
Yeah.
But they had no chicken.
Yeah.
Or no duck, I mean. They just had them eating on lo mein.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was... I mean, I liked that message.
Yeah, that was a good message.
I just didn't like the fact that it had to be at that restaurant. Like, because then it's like, this place. Remember this place? Oh, haha, yeah. Remember the first movie again? All this movie does is remind you of the first movie.
Yeah,
it's a movie...
But they did smartly cut out the racist parts
of that
Chinese...
Which, that was the responsible thing to do, and I get that.
They still should have had the duck. I mean,
I think they just shouldn't have had the Chinese place in the first
True.
place. But if they were going to have it, then I think the duck probably would have been the smarter choice. Yeah. There's just a lot of things that they did with this movie that they shouldn't have done, and a lot of things that they didn't do that they could have done, and that's about it. It felt like a movie made by a machine that was trying to imitate the first movie and sucked at it.
Buck.
Yeah.
Easily, because it's cheap, straight to DVD. I'm sure they made their money back and then some, but
Yeah.
probably not much.
Well, I helped because I rented it.
Yeah, me
so.
too. We saw Spike.
Yeah, we've contributed to the people who made this movie.
I didn't want to. I was like, damn it, I feel bad.
Yeah, so I mean, we paid for it. We may as well tell them what we think of it. So
It sucked.
Yeah.
If you're listening, it sucked.
yeah, don't make anything like that ever again. Like, anyway, so now that the holidays are over, we are traversing into a new year and into a new decade. And with that, we are also shifting themes a little bit. Instead of choosing 80s B movies, we are now choosing 90s B movies, which might be more fun because it's the decade that we're more familiar with as people, But yeah. So do you want me to go with my choice first? Or?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at one real quick.
Okay. So so the one I chose is Cool as Ice. It's the Vanilla Ice movie, and I've seen it before, and I want to see it again.
I've heard of it.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. So.
Oh man. I'm guessing it's available, so I'd be surprised if it weren't.
I
Yeah.
can look it up.
Yeah, that's my choice.
All right. So my original choice was gonna be Wicked World, the guy who did Things, his next movie.
Oh, yeah, Wicked
But
World.
it's not really available. It's not really available anywhere.
Okay.
So
All right, we'll wait on that one then.
yeah, my pick is going to be Frankenhooker.
Ah,
Oh, nice.
good. Okay. Good. I'm looking forward to watching that one again. So.
Let me see if I can find one real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless you guys have another one that.
Yeah, Frankenhooker. That's the Frank. That's the Frank. That's by the guy who did Basket Case, which we've talked about
Oh, is it?
previously. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my first choice.
Yeah. Well, he had a bigger budget for this movie, so and I think before he did this one, he did Brain Damage. It was either before this one or after. I can't remember, but I like Brain Damage a lot. So then there was another movie he did, and of course he did the two Basket Case sequels, and then he did another movie a few years ago called Bad Biology, which I saw, and yeah, that was a weird one. So I don't know if I'd recommend that one or not. I'd have to think about it. I like the soundtrack though. So
I just
even
looked up.
oh yeah.
Cool as Ice is online.
Okay.
It's on Tubi, if you've heard of that site.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've used it a bunch
It-
already for this podcast.
Yeah, it's free with ads.
Okay. Perfect.
Have you heard? No, you should probably look this one up.
Okay.
Circuitry Man.
Circuitry Man.
It's 1990, so right on the right in the beginning of it.
I've never heard of it. It sounds. What does it have? Should I read the summary or?
If you want to, I try
Okay.
to not, but if you want to.
Oh, yeah, I shouldn't. This just looks too weird. Okay, never mind. Okay, cool. Circuitry Man. All right, awesome. Can't wait. All right, awesome.
There it is. It might be on YouTube, but as of that, the site that I look on, it's just all paid stuff right now.
Yeah.
So I'll look on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, we can always change it too if we need to.
Yeah. If we can't find it, there's always other stuff that's available. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Peace on Earth. Enjoy your experiences and have fun in the winter. So,
All right. Yeah. Have a
Yeah.
good holiday.
yeah.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Yeah. All right. Bye.